Well, good evening. I'm Doug Turner, and we're going to talk tonight about thought clubs. And the topic is, will your thoughts uncover your David? Now, we have all seen, or we know of, the David sculpture. You know, and for those of you that haven't, my PowerPoint up there, this is David. I took this picture myself last summer in Florence. And for those of you that don't know how big David is, there's me in front of David. It's a massive sculpture. Now, it was carved by Michelangelo, one of the best known sculptors in the world. He was also well known for having painted the Sistine Chapel. It was done in about 1505. Now, he was asked at the time, where did he get the inspiration to carve David? And his answer was that it didn't require any inspiration at all. All I did was carve away the rock. David was already in there. When I read that, I heard that about 10 years ago, and that really hit me. You know, so we all have our own greatness inside us. You know, just like David was there for Michelangelo. So imagine a world where everybody was dedicated to helping other people uncover their Davids. You know, it's such a powerful idea, and I believe as educators, this is one of the most powerful things we can do to allow people to be comfortable with what I call their greatness. Their David is their greatness. So let's see how we can go about doing that. So what gets in the way of people uncovering and showing their greatness? Well, let me tell you a story about a girl named Amy that I heard about through my daughter years ago, and how this really kind of got started. Amy was a good student, a very good student, and she intentionally left questions off a math exam so that she would get a lower score than she could easily have gotten. It turned out she did this because she wanted to fit in with a group of students that were out, you know, behind the shed in the schoolyard, you know, having a smoke or whatever they do. And all those girls there, you know, were not good students. And they talked about things like math sucks, you know, school sucks, you know, and good students are nerds. And so Amy wanted to fit in with that group, so those are the things that she said. She made it look as if that was what she was thinking too, that's what she believed, which of course she didn't, but that's what she did to join the club. So why is that important? Well, let's leave it for the moment. Now, if you combine that with our desire, we all have a desire to belong. So we do join clubs, you know, various kinds of clubs, all kinds of clubs. You probably all belong to clubs. And we do that for various reasons, you know, to socialize, maybe to learn, certainly to have fun, but largely a feeling to, like, belong. We want to belong to something, okay? And that's what drives the, you know, joining of clubs. Now, Amy had nothing in common with the girls out behind the shed, really, nothing in common with them at all. But she wanted to belong, so she did what she needed to do to appear like she had something in common with them. And now she, therefore, had joined a particular kind of a club. It wasn't really a club at all. It was just a club of people who think the same things, or at least they seem to, right? So, you didn't even have to think them, you just had to say you thought them, right? So she was joining a thought club. It happened to be sort of a social club too, but she was joining a thought club. But did she really belong? And that's really the question. Did she belong in that club? Now, Brené Brown, in her book, Daring Greatly, she distinguishes between belonging and fitting in. If you change yourself to match the people that you want to, you know, associate with, that's called fitting in. You change to fit in. If you're accepted without changing, that's belonging. Much more powerful to belong, you know, than to fit in. So clearly Amy was struggling to fit in. okay? And she was really covering up her David. Her real David was, she was a good student. She was good at math, etc. So she was covering up her David. And from an educator's point of view, I think we would agree that one of the most valuable things we can do as educators is facilitate students achieving at their highest possible level, uncovering their David. So that's what I want to talk about, how we go about doing that. Let's see how that can work. We all have thoughts and beliefs. And our beliefs, many others have the same thoughts and beliefs, right? And so it could be the math sucks club. It could be, good students are nerds club. But it could just as easily be, I'm a very worthy person club. I am certainly going to be successful club. Just different thoughts, okay? And so we'll talk about the power of the various clubs and how they can impact us. But why? You're asking, well, why is this important? Because if many of us feel like we're not achieving where we'd like to achieve, and we're wondering kind of why, we're kind of not where we would like to be. And it has been shown by many authors that our results and our behavior are largely driven by our thoughts. And there are things like the law of attraction, and various books have been talking about that, fairly popular. I mean, the law of attraction simply says we attract to ourselves whatever it is we focus on. And I've seen lots of examples of that all over the place. And, notably, I was talking to a really good student a couple of years ago, and he had a long history of being a good student and a good athlete. He didn't particularly care, what people around him thought of his success. He was comfortable with that. And so he was sort of protected by or comforted by the fact that he was around people who were like him. And he just being good at sports and being good at school was fine with him. Now, the key thing, though, is he had lots of support. He had support of his friends. He had support of his parents. He had support of his teachers and coaches, all of whom kind of helped them, said, okay, there are times when you kind of feel like you don't want to do that, but they helped him along. So I think that's one of the key messages, is that there's definitely a link there, but whether people are prepared to implement it often is that they need help doing that. So let's go back to Amy. Now, she had been a good student, but her goal was to win a scholarship. But her behavior, which was being dictated by her thoughts and her desire to fit in, were clearly not consistent with winning a scholarship. But even though that was what was important to her, she wanted to get the scholarship because it was prestige and money and all that kind of stuff. So being in the Math Sucks Club was not serving her. But there was nobody to help her to understand that and get out of the Math Sucks Club and not even think it, okay? Because that was not going to serve her at all. But there was nobody there to help her. And what's worse, she didn't really belong in the club. She was faking it. But even though she was faking it, her behavior, which was faked, wasn't going to serve her either. So the whole thing was just kind of going down the tube. She needed to have somebody to help her understand the connection between her thoughts and her behavior and the results that she was going to attain, right? Well, you say, well, so what? The reason this is so powerful is all you have to do to get out of those clubs is change your thinking. Now, that may be a little easier said than done, but usually it's fairly simple. I mean, there is one technique that you can use. If you have let's say you have a thought that isn't serving you and you'd like to change it. You just simply think of that thought, and how is that thought not serving you? What would happen if you didn't change? Like, how is that thought, what would happen if you just continued being the way you are? And then take that thought and go in front of a mirror and say that thought. Like I'm not smart enough to be an engineer. And then say it's silly. Make a duck voice or a cartoon voice or something really ludicrous and crazy, and say that into the mirror so the whole thing sounds ridiculous. Because it is. because it's only a thought. And then write down what would happen if the opposite of that thought was true. If you were smart enough to be an engineer, what would that mean? And how would that change your behavior? And write all that down. And then share that thought with somebody. Like, go and talk to somebody and say, I want to tell you my new thought. I used to think this and now I think that. And share it. There's a great big tremendous benefit from sharing your new thoughts with people. The probability of you succeeding goes up like a factor of 100 just by sharing your thoughts and what you're trying to do. And then also reward yourself for having little victories. Have fun, and give yourself a little gift because you've changed your thoughts. You no longer thought that. So that's one way of getting out of that club, if you will. And that's fairly easy, but there's something that can be overriding that still gets in the way. And people can try that, and it's, well, yeah, I know, I could do that, but I really am not feeling comfortable with even doing that, changing that up. And what gets in the way is that they're afraid. People are afraid of what other people will think of them if they show their success. They're afraid that people might be kind of out to get them, will sabotage their efforts, will tease them, will make fun of them, whatever it might be, if they really succeed at the level that they can. And the fear is that it comes from what's known as an attitude of scarcity. There's not enough. There's not enough whatever. There's not enough money to go around. There's not enough praise to go around. Not enough love to go around. There's not enough good stuff to go around. So everybody has to succeed at somebody else's expense. And so it's all fear is not being able to get your share, and you therefore don't want to stand out for fear that somebody's going to come after you because you're taking more than your share or something along those lines. The opposite of it is an attitude of abundance, where you understand, yeah, there's enough to go around. There's enough for everybody. I trust my world around me that people will not, try to shoot me down if I'm successful. I can help other people be successful. I can be successful. We can all be successful. And a completely different attitude. The fear then goes away because it is replaced by trust. And people's then behavior, changes. Okay? Now that's not done easily, and it requires help. And it requires help, from teachers and coaches and friends and parents, and that's kind of why we're here. And so I think our duty is to really help people achieve at the level that they're capable of, expose their David, right? So the three the pillars are, I think, that we need, to help students with is, the first, we need to talk to students about, or everybody really, about the connection between their thoughts and their behaviors, and therefore their outcomes. Okay, a lot of people just don't understand they're connected. As we saw with Amy, she probably didn't see the connection, right? The second is, people need to understand that you don't always have to sort of fit in. You don't have to change you don't have to comply in order to be accepted. You can be accepted, as you are. That's a tough one, and it's a hard one to get across to people, right? And the third one is we need to help people, students, learn to basically just trust their environment. The people around them will accept them as they are, with all of their greatness. Okay? And then we will all see their David. Thank you.